All right, how's everyone doing today? Sleepy? I'm glad to see so many faces back again today and a couple of new faces. I hope everyone had a good rest yesterday evening and that you didn't get too soaked in the rain. I walked back to the hotel in the pouring rain, but it was nice. I had an umbrella. So I see we have a couple of new people today, and so I think we have time to kind of go around. We got to know a bit about many of you and your festivals yesterday, but I think it would be nice to just go very quickly. Remember, for those of you here yesterday, remember the concept discussion we had. And so if you can give us like your name, one sentence about your festival, and where your festival takes place, and also when your festival takes place. I need to get the microphone from my team back here to help me with that. Do we have another? Okay. Okay, and for anyone who's new today, yesterday we covered topics on, well, first of all, my name's Hallie. I'm from the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C., and we're talking about cultural festivals. I work for a cultural center in Washington, and instead of having a museum, we present culture through an annual festival that takes place on the National Mall in Washington, D.C., and it's taken place for more than 50 years, and usually we have between 750,000 and 1 million participants that come to or visitors that come to our festival over the course of 2 weeks. It's during the end of June and beginning of July. So what we covered yesterday, I'm gonna need help with like passing it around. So maybe you can give it to, So yesterday we covered your purpose, why you're doing this, what the festival is about, what it means to present cultural heritage at a festival and the importance of it. We covered some ways that even presenting culture at festivals can be damaging or destructive, and other ways that you can be supportive to cultural heritage by the way that you prepare and plan your festival. We also talked about site design and creating a site map, different ways of building festival structures. We talked a little bit about environmental impact and accessibility. And then we also got into community engagement and working with volunteers. So today we're going to cover 3 major topics, actually. Marketing and promotion is the first one. And then we're going to get into financials. I know yesterday that came up a lot. I know budget is a problem for every festival organizer everywhere in the world. So we're going to talk about building budgets, but we're also going to talk about fundraising and how to do fundraising effectively. And then finally, we're going to cover evaluation. It's kind of connecting the circle back. Yesterday, we talked about creating a mission and a vision for the work that you do and the importance of having a festival concept so you know what you're trying to accomplish. And we'll close the session by talking about how you evaluate your festival to understand if you've accomplished that goal and how to report that both to the public, to your participants, to your audiences, and also to donors where you're getting your funding. So that's what we're going to cover today. Okay, we have the microphone. So let's go ahead and start maybe in the back corner here. If you can just tell everyone your name, one sentence about your festival, where it takes place, and when it takes place. And feel free to speak in, we have translators, so feel free to speak in Bosnian.
Hvala lijepo. Sve vas srdačno pozdravljam. Žao mi je što jučer nisam bio u prilici da prisustvujem ovom treningu. Moje ime je Džemal Hurić i član sam Udruženja za očuvanje tradicije i razvoj kulturno-umjetničkog stvaralaštva Bašlija. Već 5 godina organizujemo festival folklora koji je internacionalnog karaktera i održava se uglavnom u prvoj sedmici avgusta. Na tom festivalu okupljamo različite folklorne grupe sa kojima sarađujemo i s kojima imamo međunarodnu saradnju. Tačnije, pravimo im uzvratnu posjetu jer mi vrlo često odlazimo na njihove festivale. To je prijateljstvo koje na neki način čuvamo kroz to stvaralaštvo i ono što želim da kažem jeste da se festival održava, odnosno koncertne aktivnosti se održavaju u Sarajevu, Konjicu, Jajcu, Mostaru i Zenici. Dakle, cilj nam je da kada naši gosti dođu u Bosnu i Hercegovinu, dožive u pravom smislu, dakle da posjete i turističke potencijale i ljepote Bosne i Hercegovine i to je nešto najkraće što mogu da kažem o festivalu koji organizuje Udruženje Bašlija.
Dobro jutro. Moje ime je Lea Kalender i ja i moja partnerica imamo udruženje i kompaniju i bavimo se u principu organizacijom događaja. Već imamo neke događaje iza nas, tipa Dječji sajam u Sarajevu, Dječji festival u Mostaru. Nedavno smo pravili konferenciju na temu mentalnog zdravlja u Sarajevu i sada idemo s tom istom pričom i u Banja Luku, pa onda u Mostar. Ali ono zbog čega sam ovdje jeste zato što za ljeto, odnosno za april, pripremamo jedan veliki projekat, odnosno festival pod nazivom Okusi Hercegovinu. I tu nam je ideja da okupimo, to bi u biti bio sajam gastronomije i turizma. I to je ideja da okupimo sve ono što je vezano za Hercegovinu. Da predstavimo Hercegovinu i da otkrijemo njene ljepote, ali naravno ne bježimo ni od ostalog dijela Bosne. Jel? Tako da se tu spremamo za taj veliki projekat. Lokaciju već imamo. U potrazi smo za, da kažem, sponzorima, za onim ko bi financirao taj dio, odnosno pokrio troškove i naravno za izlagačima, jer tu imamo ideju da izlagači budu od hotelijera, restorana, proizvođača medova, smokve i svega onoga što potiče iz same Hercegovine. I tako iskreno se nadamo da će to biti jedna velika i odlična priča, jedan veliki projekat i to bi obilježio tu našu, da kažem, taj naš uspjeh u osnivanju i kreiranju festivala.
One quick question, where does your festival take place? Where will it take place?
U Hercegovini, hotel Ada u Blagaju.
Okay.
Blagaj.
Okay, thank you.
Evo, dobro jutro i od mene. Moje ime je Marija, ovo je moja koleginica Aleksandra. Nas dve dolazimo ispred turističke organizacije grada Zvornika. Kada je reč o festivalima i događajima, znate da je Zvornik veoma malo mjesto, tako da imamo neke, da kažem, festivale lokalnog karaktera. To je festival Zlatne ruke, gdje se okuplja veliki broj uglavnom žena iz našeg grada, ali dolaze iz okoline. Tu predstavljamo uglavnom stvari ručne radinosti poput grnčarije, dekupaža i slično. Osim ovog festivala također postoji i kulturno leto gdje se organizuje veliki broj koncerata i slično. Ukratko.
Dobro jutro svima još jednom. Should I repeat it?
Just very quickly, because there are a couple new people here too.
Okay. Dobro jutro svima. Pozdravljam sve nove ljude širom naše lijepe države. Moje ime je Sejad Šašivarević. Ja nisam član nijedne organizacije. Ja djelujem onako freelancerski. Ono što sam ja radio u protekle 2 godine je bio jedna škola fotografije u Lukomiru, koja je bila praktično dodatak, nazovimo je jednom boravku u selu i prolasku kroz kulturno-istorijsko nasljeđe, tradiciju i običaje. Povod tome je bila moja iskrena ljubav na prvi pogled prema tom selu i ljudima koji tamo žive. I volio bi ispitati mogućnosti na koji način bi se selu Lukomiru moglo dalje pomoći. Tako da sam ovih dana s vama zbog toga. Hvala.
Thank you.
Dobar jutro svima. Za razliku od vas sviju, ja dolazim iz privatnog, realnog dijela. Zadnjih 12 godina se bavim organizovanje raznih vrsta evenata, koncerata, pozorišnih predstava. Imam iza sebe preko 400 organizovanih takvih evenata. Radio sam i, kako to sad najbolje da objasnim, komercijalnog karaktera sve je bilo. Došao sam ovdje da vidim čisto da neku novi pogled na to sve, jer trenutno na Bjelašice držim jednu kolibu koja je udaljena od svega 5 km, nalazi se u šumi i želim tu da pokušam organizovati neki festival, gastro, naravno s muzikom, pa eto da vidimo samo kako, da mi vi malo otvorite oči, što se kaže.
Great.
Dobro jutro, ja sam Iqbala Makić, u biti apsolvent sam kulturnog turizma i ovdje sam najviše iz razloga kako bi pridobila neko dodatno znanje koje bi to svoje formalno obrazovanje nadogradila i uspjela da organizujem neki festival hrane u Bosni i Hercegovini, Food Waste, negdje u Bosni i Hercegovini. Jučer sam razmišljala da to buduće vapi, možda danas da bude generalno naša tradicionalna hrana, jer sam radila diplomski upravo na tome i toj modifikaciji naše tradicionalne hrane, kako sve želimo da napravimo profit od toga. I baš bih voljela da to bude onako čisto tradicionalna hrana, ne mora biti toliko profitabilan festival.
Dobro jutro svima, ja sam Selma, dolazim iz Cazina, ispred lokalne zajednice. Mi još uvijek nemamo festival, ali u toku je planiranje i zbog toga smo najviše tu. Kao što sam jučer rekla, to bi bio neki spoj dijaspore, gastronomske ponude i kulturne baštine. Lokacija je Cazin i to je to uglavnom.
Dobro jutro svima. Ja sam Irma, dolazim iz Cazina, zaposlenik sam Centar za kulturu i turizam. Jučer smo već pričali o tome, prvi put organiziramo festival Kestena, Chest Fest, koji će se održati u zadnjoj sedmici ovog oktobra. To je u biti pilot projekat, a radi se o festivalu agrikulture i edukacije, kojim ćemo mi pokušati slaviti kesten i sve ono što od njega imamo u krajini.
Dobro jutro, ja sam Šaban, dolazim iz Vareša. Pozdravljam nove kolege i kolegice koji su tu jutros, jučer smo se mi predstavili. Vodim jednu malu nevladnu organizaciju koja se nalazi, čije je sjedišta adresa, uz kraljevski grad Bobovac. Uradili smo jako puno infrastrukturalnih projekata, imamo iza sebe jedno bogato iskustvo na ovakvim predavanjima koje smo valorizovali, ovim realizovanim projektima. Organizovali smo razne sitne evente do sada i sad pokušavamo da organizujemo jedan festival tradicije i kulture upravo na kraljevskom gradu Bobovcu, to jest u Bobovačkoj dolini, kako bi na taj način valorizovali i prezentovali kraljevski grad Bobovac. Svi Bosanci i Hercegovci znaju šta za državu Bosnu i Hercegovinu predstavlja ova kulturna istorijska lokacija. I želim namjera, odnosno je moja na ovom seminaru, na ovoj edukaciji, da proširimo neka nova znanja, da čujemo neke nove prakse od kolega i kolegica iz okruženja i da iste primijenimo u svojoj mikrolokaciji.
Dobro jutro svima. Moje ime je Dino. Ja dolazim iz Tuzle i zaposlen sam u nevladnoj organizaciji koja se zove Magic Factory, koja se bavi organizacijom projekata. Mi organizujemo nekoliko projekata godišnje, ali najbitniji, najkompleksniji je Tuzla Film Festival. On se održava svake godine u oktobru mjesecu, krajem oktobra. koncept festivala bio bi prezentacija i projekcija filmova u nekoliko različitih kategorija koji se dolaze sa južnoslavenskih prostora većinom. To znači iz regiona koji pokriva južnoslavensko govorno područje. To bi bilo to.
Dobro jutro i od mene. Džena Dautović, kustos iz Zavičajnog muzeja Travnik. Ovako, naš muzej organizuje dvije malo veće manifestacije koje bi se mogle uslovno uvrstiti u ove festivale. Prvi su Andrićevi dani koji počinju upravo za 9. oktobra. To je manifestacija posvećena piscu Ivi Andriću, jedinom dobitniku Nobelove nagrade za književnost sa područja jugoistočne Europe, koji je rođen upravo u Travniku. Ta manifestacija traje otprilike mjesec dana, od početka oktobra do početka novembra, a druga je manifestacija Ljeto na Starom gradu, koje traje cijelo ljeto, dakle juni, juli i august, i to predstavlja niz dešavanja na srednjovjekovnoj tvrđavi u samom gradu Travniku. Ove manifestacije nisu baš tipični festivali o kojima ovdje uglavnom ima priče, zato jer ne dešavaju se intenzivno kao ovo što vi uglavnom prezentirate u kraće vrijeme po cijeli dan, nego su oni sastavljeni od niza manjih, tako da kažem, dešavanja, tipa promocija knjiga, predstava, predavanja, treninga, okruglih stolova, naučnih konferencija i slično, ali eto, i ova će sigurno iskustva poslužiti da tu našu organizaciju naprijedimo u narednom smjeru, narednom vremenu. Hvala.
Great, thank you. Excellent book, by the way.
Dobro jutro svima. Ja sam Emir Medanhodžić, osnivač i predsjednik upravnog odbora fondacije Čuvari baštine Basanija. To je jedna nova fondacija koja ima fokus da štiti, čuva i promoviše našu kulturnu baštinu sa fokusom na stečke. Svi ste upoznati sa situacijom šta se radi s tom našom baštinom, kako se uništava i devastira, i mi ćemo da damo sve od sebe da pokušamo da to na određen način zaustavimo sa početnim idejom da naredne godine oko maju i junu da organiziramo prvi festival kulturne baštine u Bosni i Hercegovini. Izvinjavam se, juče nisam mogao stići, imao sam nekih tehničkih problema, tako da nadam se da će ovaj dan naučiti nešto novo. Hvala lijepo.
Dobro jutro svima. Evo, ako da se možemo vidjeti, ja sam Selma Hadžihalilović, članica tima Fondacije Cure. Inače se bavim rodno odgovornim turizmom i društveno odgovornim turizmom. Fondacija Cure je nedavno uspjela da završi svoj 16. po redu godišnji Pitchwise festival ženske angažovane umjetnosti i aktivizma. Kao što možete vidjeti, bilo je tako dobro da sam još uvijek prehlađena. To je jedan neprofitni festival međunarodnog karaktera koji ima za cilj da promoviše žensku umjetnost, ženski aktivizam, ženska prava, umrežavanje, promoviše mlade umjetnice, bilo da su književnice, muzičarke, slikarke, skulpturke, organizujemo različite panele koji su vezani za aktuelne momente u društvu, radionice koje mogu biti od toga kako raditi sa glinom do joge, do onog vrčenja vatre, koji su nam najdraže zato što se možemo dobro destresirati za vrijeme njih. Festival se dešava jedan put godišnje, druga sedmica u septembru i neprofitnog je karaktera u potpunosti.
Dobro jutro, ja sam Senija, dolazim iz Gradačca, inače sam turistički vodič i godinama sam uključena u organizaciju jednog tradicionalnog festivala koji mi u Gradačcu nazivamo Sajam ili Dani šljive, koji je trenutno zbog nekih stvari koje smo jučer spomenuli na predavanjima treba da prođe kroz jedan proces koji je izgubio svoj osnovni koncept zbog komercijalizacije i loših politika koji su se vodili, pa ga trenutno želimo vratiti prvotnoj ideji i konceptu u kojem mi slavimo šljivu kao naš primarni proizvod koji se u našoj poljoprivrednoj zajednici proizvodi. Eto.
Dobro jutro. Danas ću na našem govoriti, kad već imamo prevodioce. Direktor Muzeja Istočne Bosne. Razlog što sam ovdje je zato što upravo radim na razvoju baštinskih festivala na području Tuzlanskog kantona. Neću puno govoriti o tome, obzirom da je ovdje sve javno. Ja još uvijek neću da govorim jer je u fazi predprodukcije. Isto tako, djelomično, ja znam da većina privatnika smatra ustanove poput moje kao stakeholdere. Međutim, ja bih volio ovom priliku da vam dam do znanja da većina institucija, kao što su muzeji, ne mogu vam biti stakeholderi. Ono što trebate je da preskočite njih i ciljate direktno na ministarstva. Fondove, grantove ministarstva. Ustanove u kulturi su u jako lošoj poziciji i nisu u stanju da i vama pomažu. Dok prvo sebe nekako ne stavimo na dvije noge. Trenutno smo svi na jednoj. Baš zato što smo svi na jednoj nozi, mislim da je jako bitno da se naslonimo jedni na druge. Jer zajedno možemo biti jedna jaka stonoga. Toliko od mene za sad.
Thank you so much. I hope that's also, let me turn down my translation. There we go. I think many of you got to know each other a little bit yesterday if you haven't met already, and I really appreciate that so many of you have come quite a distance to attend this session. So thank you so much for being with us. And so for the structure of our day today, we're going to do the same thing we did yesterday, which is a marathon. So we'll eat lunch at 3:30. We'll have 2 breaks for coffee and some croissant upstairs, I think probably around 11 and around 1:30. So if you're getting thirsty and hungry, but there are washrooms in the back here, and there's a table with water and things like that if you need it as well. Okay? Great. Okay, so getting started today. We talked about festival concepts yesterday. And when you have your idea for your festival, one of the biggest things you need to do, it's like you can't just make a festival and assume people will come. You have to do marketing and promotion. And that's different from community engagement, which we talked about yesterday. That's, getting the community involved, and that's an important piece of it. But how do you put the microphone out for the broader public? And how do you know what audience you actually want to come to your festival? So today we're going to go through marketing specifically for festivals and what that looks like. You're going to work on choosing which market channels you want to focus on for your festival. I'll also give you an introduction to the tourism supply chain so that you can better understand how to connect into tourism if you're interested in having international visitors coming to your festival, which I'm sure most people will be. I'll also talk to you about building sales partnerships, and we'll go through an example of what that looks like, working with the private sector, so you know that one very well. And then finally, we're going to go through marketing materials and different types of materials that will be really useful for you and are in many ways essential to professionalize and to really give your festival a brand and a look and feel that's going to invite audiences and make them excited about coming. So in general, I'm going to start from some basics, although I know many of you probably are already aware of this, so bear with me if you have the knowledge already. But marketing in general is a set of activities that are aimed at promoting and selling services or products. In this case, festival marketing is a set of actions that you're going to take to promote and increase attendees at the festival. So when you're thinking about traditional marketing, in this case, the product is the festival itself. And so we're going to apply the principles of marketing to the festival as if that is a product. So with marketing for festivals, the first thing that you really need to do is define your target market or markets. And we're going to walk through that process. It's also essential to set goals and a budget, because there are a lot of things that you can do with marketing, a lot of things that are expensive. We'll talk about options on cost savings and what's effective. But it's really important to plan that, because as we were discussing yesterday, festivals have a lot of different costs that come up, and a lot of times what happens is people plan the festival and they don't save the budget for marketing. And so they put all of the money into the infrastructure, the tents, all of those services, and then when it comes to doing marketing and outreach, they don't have any resources left. So it's really important to consider the marketing costs when you're planning. We'll also go through the steps of developing a marketing plan. Just like making a production plan for the festival, if you put a plan in place, very simple, and you'll get a template for that as well, and an example from our crafts festival in Armenia that goes through the specific steps of each of the different marketing channels, identifies a role and responsibility, and then sets a time frame for when that's going to be done. So then the key is putting your marketing plan into action and then monitoring the results, because many of you have talked about having festivals over several years, and it's really important, in the same way that you want to evaluate what worked and didn't work at the festival, you also want to evaluate your marketing and where did you get the most reach. An example to that is maybe Facebook, you ended up getting a lot of people coming and learning about it through Facebook. We'll go through how you can use some analytics. But maybe then it's not worthwhile if you did print advertising, but you're not sure if it was impactful, but it was very expensive. If you analyze, and you can also gather information from visitor surveys, if you analyze that information, then it allows you to make better decisions for the next year when you're making your plan for marketing. So the marketing mix, and this is specifically, kind of adopting the marketing mix model for festivals. So the product is the festival. You want to have a very, very clear idea of what is your festival. What problem does the festival solve? And I know that may sound silly, because maybe the festival is just to celebrate something, but that's okay too. Then the problem is building awareness about a cultural figure or a type of practice or a type of music. Then that's the problem, is raising awareness about that particular tradition. Then you want to have a very good sense of communicating the place. So where does your festival take place? What are the characteristics and what makes it special? We talked yesterday about choosing the site for your festival. And for some people, the site is just as important as the festival itself. So making sure that you're also communicating to your audience about where it is, and doing that not just in visuals, but also in words. Then communicating price, letting people know if there's a price to attend the festival, and then figuring out the optimal ticket price, which we'll get into that, actually go through some exercises about ticket pricing a bit later when we talk about budgets and fundraising. And figuring out if those ticket prices match your ideal audience. So coming to the audience, then it's also about people. Who is your target audience? What are their characteristics, needs, and behaviors? And then finally, promotion. What media should you use to actually reach your target market? So target market is a group of potential visitors to your festival. So they can include different groups of people, and each group can have a different purpose for visiting your festival. So, sorry, one sec. Here we go. Okay, so you may have heard the term of market segmentation, and that's what we're gonna do that together in a few minutes. So the market segmentation is the process of dividing the target market into smaller groups who have the same needs and desires and who make the same decisions, right? So that could be geographic, depending on if you have certain people coming from a particular country or a place or speaking the same language. Psychographic, which is about values and lifestyle. So this is where, again, for cultural travelers, there's a specific type of person that wants to come to cultural festivals, and figuring out how to understand who those people are and what they want to do. Behavioral, so that's habits, intent, engagement style. And so that might be things like adventure, you know, people who are looking for something that's a little bit on, like a little edgy, or it could be family, you know, where people are looking for something to bring their kids. And so maybe, you know, thinking about which of these groups make the most sense for the festival that you're trying to create. And then finally, demographic. So looking at age, gender, and family, and occupation as well might be relevant. So, okay, everybody's meeting their new friends. Let me have your attention quickly. I'll give you the assignment, and then you can keep chatting with each other. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is just use your notebooks, and I want you to write down your target markets for your festival. Now, for those of you who already have festivals, I want you to do two things. I want you to write down who's coming to your festival now and describe them. I'm going to put the, here, this one back up. I want you to think about these descriptions of who they are. And so if you're having festivals, describe who the people are who come to your festival. If you haven't had a festival yet and you're planning one, then I want you to think really carefully and get very specific about the type of people that you want to come to your festival. Okay? As you're going through this exercise, you can also it's important to think about why they would want to come. And so matching, like when you're writing down the type of audience that you're trying to reach, what do you think the motivation is? You don't have to write that part down, but have it in your mind. But like if you're thinking, I want young people who are between the ages of 18 and 35 to come to my festival, be able to say why. What's the reason that you want them to come, and what is it that you're offering that they're going to be excited about? Okay, I'm going to give you about like 8 minutes for this exercise, and work on it together and help each other, okay?
Ja, dobro. Ok, ovo je fantazija kraft festival, mislim fantazija zato što ne postoji. Odredili smo znači ciljnu grupu po dobi 35 plus godina. Što se tiče mladih, njih ćemo uključiti kroz volonterski rad. Još jedna veoma značajna grupa su nam zanatlije i ljudi koji se bave kulturnom djelatnošću. I možeš me napomenuti moment. Ne, zadnje. Ne, zadnje.
Can I ask why you chose the 35 and older?
Imali smo iskustva već, mislim, evo i ona govori iz svog iskustva, znam ja iskustva, da stvari poput zanata ne zanimaju mlađe. Način na koji mi moramo njima pristupiti nije baš, to jest moramo osmisliti specijalan marketing da bi njima se pristupilo, ali mislim da njima najbolje da idemo kroz inkluziju, a najbolja inkluzija jeste kroz volonterizam. Tako da bi kroz volonterizam oni razvili neke osjećaje, neke osjećaje povezanosti sa ovim zanatima, tako da tek u narednom periodu, nakon više godina edukacije publike, mi možemo očekivati da i mladi počnu shvatati ovo kao i stariji. To je sa svakim festivalom koji je u početku, tako njemu jednostavno treba vremena života da bi postigao to što želi. Tako da smo se odredili za onu publiku za koju smo 100% sigurni da bi došli, da ne bi imali rizik da nam ne dođe niko ako samo budemo bazirali se na mlade. Ali zato smo gledali da kroz volonterizam njih uključimo. I naravno, glavne dvije grupe koje želimo ovdje da uključimo su demografski gledajući, su da spojimo grad i selo. Naravno, ovdje moramo opet imati različit marketinški pristup, jer ljudi koji dolaze iz ruralnih dijelova su već u svom životu donekli upoznati s ovim, ali moramo napraviti taj spoj, koheziju sa gradom, kako da to u gradu napravimo, da bi se u gradu plasiralo i da bi bilo, kako da kažem, upravo ta sinergija između sela i grada.
Okay, great. You know, you're still talking in my head a little bit after you stop, so it's a little awkward. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, another group, and I want to hear from somebody who has had actually, I'm really curious about the Plum Festival. Yeah, let me hear about that, because I'm curious about the market you have versus the market you want.
Trenutno, ako govorimo o festivalu prije 30 godina, tada je ciljna populacija bila čitav prostor bivše Jugoslavije i bili su bili proizvođači poljoprivrednih proizvoda i cjelokupna industrija. Ali je kulturni sadržaj tog festivala je bio u produkciji sarajevskih ili iz glavnih gradova se dešavao, tako da je on povlačio sa sobom veliki broj turista koji su ostajali duže vremena. Znači, pratili su festival čitavo vrijeme u trajanju od 3 do 4 dana i gdje su se razvijao se smještajni su kapaciteti bili popunjeni i u samom gradu i u čitavoj regiji i turistička potrošnja je bila povećana. S obzirom da se kulturni sadržaji, same sajamske manifestacije u svijetu su izgubile taj primat u samom marketinškom konceptu, kulturni sadržaji su spušteni na niži nivo, trenutno je zadnjih 10 godina bio prilagođen gostima koji su dolazili na jedan dan i koji su bili njihova turistička potrošnja je bila niža, tako da se mi sad ciljano obraćamo prema turistima koji bi dolazili, ostajali duže i koristili druge turističke sadržaje koje sam grad nudi. Okay.
So with the tourists, are you targeting regional tourists from the Balkans, or are you looking at international tourists as well?
Balkana, ali mi smo sada trenutno, nam je partner na projektu bila ambasada Indonezije u Bosni i Hercegovini, koja inače ima svoje proizvode koje izvozi u Bosnu i Hercegovinu. I zanimljivo nam je bilo da se povezujemo sa ambasadama ne samo zemalja iz regije Balkana ili naše bivše zemlje, nego da širimo prema istoku i prema Europi. To nam je bilo u cilju i to nam je bilo zanimljivo iskustvo koje smo u ovom pandemijskom vremenu ostvarili, tako da možemo to primjenjivati idućih godina.
Okay. All right. Another volunteer. Make me call on somebody again. Everyone's avoiding eye contact. Okay. Okay, how about this lady in the back? I'm sorry, I'm beginning to learn people's names. You. Yeah.
Ja vjerujem da nekako moramo govoriti iz dvije perspektive. Prvo pred-covid i post-covid perspektivi, jer su iskustva različita u organizaciji različitih festivala u periodu prije COVID-a i ovo sada stanje kakvo nam je. Mi smo, ovdje imate 2 Selme, još nam fali 3. pa da halvu zakuhamo, pa da zaista vidite kulturnu baštinu Bosne i Hercegovine. I potpuno 2 različite perspektive. Selma iz Cazina je okrenuta prema kulturnoj baštini i želi da pokrene festival u kojem bi prije svega uključila dijasporu koja kada dolazi u Krajinu na neki način želi da održi tu vezu, znači osoba dijaspore zapravo sa tim lokalnim područjem iz kojeg dolaze, kako se ne bi zaboravile određene vrijednosti, tradicija ručnog rada, hrane i naravno kestena, sljedeći put ćemo tražiti da nam ponese po kilu kestena, tako da se možemo da uživamo, jer je kesten iz Krajine zaista sjajan. I također je brendiran, Selma, ako sam dobro razumjela? Med je brendiran, što je zaista sjajna stvar. S druge strane, imate jedan festival koji je okrenut prema vrlo specifičnoj publici, koji je bez obzira na teme kojima se bavimo child friendly, family friendly, gender friendly, porijeklo, znači to konkretno da li neko dolazi iz urbane ili ruralne sredine je također friendly, jer stvara se jedan siguran, inkluzivan prostor za sve one koji su zainteresovani za drugačiju vrstu umjetnosti i drugačiju vrstu aktivizma. Prije korone naš festival je bio, redovno je bio promoviran u lokalnim navigatoru, recimo koji ima cijeli kalendar događanja, tako da je bio i generalno jeste otvoren za javnost, osim za one teme koje nisu za javnost. Mi imamo, čak plaćamo i privatne zaštitarske agencije zbog tema kojima se bavimo. Ali u onom momentu kada je festival zaista otvoren, recimo kada su to kulturni noćni program takozvani, gdje promovišemo različite muzičke umjetnice od reperki do popjevačica i tako dalje, koji su otvoreni za javnost, zna zaista biti sjajno. Zaista biti sjajno. Nažalost, COVID, posljednje 2 godine, maksimalno poštivanje svih mjera i bez obzira na naše pojavljivanje, medijsko i pozivanje da nam se pridruže osobe, mi moramo limitirati, znači, broj prisutnih, ali smo se dosjetili jedne sjajne stvari. Svi naši događaji, oni javni događaji, su live streamovani na našim web strancama i socijalnim platformama. Tako da i dalje omogućavamo osobama pristup sadržaju koji pružamo.
Yeah, you bring up a really good issue, which is the pre-COVID and post-COVID environment, because it is very different, and especially for looking at visitors. Our own festival, for the first time in 50 years, we had to take it from being physical, like entirely physical in person, to entirely digital. And there are a lot of cons, because really that the benefit of the festival are those moments of engagement where you're meeting people, and you can create that for participants when they're doing a conversation or a performance together on virtual platforms, but the person viewing it can't participate in the same way, and so it's very difficult. But we did find that our viewership when we did online programs, which we can send links to, all of our festival program is available online. We recorded everything, and so it's all available from the last 2 years. But we were able to reach audiences in new places for the first time. So, that was a benefit in terms of growing our audience, but it's very difficult because even though we did it digitally, we didn't reach nearly as many people as we did when we had it in person. But hopefully with trends looking like they're looking, like we're now kind of going back down, And hopefully we can look towards a future where COVID is manageable and we can have events again. I was very happy in Armenia we had our craft festival in person, and all of the participants, because people were so eager to have that experience, they actually made more money this year than they did in the previous 3 years at the festival. So I think that made me feel a little hopeful for the future. But there's also a really important issue, is that international visitors, it will take longer. So you're already trying to build your international market here. I know that that's like new and emerging, and it's not so established, and that's going to take time. And so even for international tourists, like after 2024 is what they're projecting globally for international tourism to rebound. You have a question?
Actually, it's about the international tour. Zapravo to je više o baš tim međunarodnim turistima u Bosni i Hercegovini. Naša najposjećenije gosti su iz arapskih država. Njih ne zanima kultura, njih ne zanima festival, njih ne zanima galerija, muzej, ništa.
Right.
Njih zanima rijeka, drvo i jabuka. I to je to. Mi u ovom trenutku Bosna i Hercegovina nema takve međunarodne turiste kojima bi mogla ponuditi festival. Tako da mislim da bi se mi i dalje trebali nekako bazirati ili na Bosnu i Hercegovinu ili eventualno regionu.
Ja nemam isto mišljenje, niti su statistički podaci broja gostiju u Bosni i Hercegovini, oni koji plaćaju boravišnu taksu takvi. Znači, mi najviše primijetimo arapske turiste. Mi imamo sad u postpandemijsko doba, mi imamo agencije koje uopšte su se skroz prebacile na tržište zapadne Evrope i pokušavaju, na primjer, ja ću dati banalan primjer iz svoje prakse. Gradača se nalazi 15 kilometara od granice sa Hrvatskom, a grad Osijek je 90 kilometara. Grad Osijek je grad koji se nalazi na Dravi. Drava se uljeva u Dunav i mi smo do predpandemijsko doba u Osijek bi ulazio krstareći brod koji krstari Dunavom sa američkim turistima i dolazili su na jednodnevnu posjetu u Gradačicu. Znači to nisu, nego su to stvari koje mi vidimo, ali statistike su potpuno drugačije. Bosna i Hercegovina je zanimljiva čitavom svijetu i imamo raznih turista. Mislim, na primjer u oktobru su avionski letovi iz Švicarske prema Sarajevu popunjeni. Ja mislim, pa dobro, mislim, ali šta fali?
Well,
nas se ne zanima, nas zanima ko će.
We don't have to debate. Let's not get into too much of a debate. Yeah. But I think one thing I want to mention is that our team for Turizam, that is one of their goals, is they're looking at market segmentation and cultural travelers and people looking, international cultural travelers looking for experiential tourism is very much who the project is targeting. So that's why we're offering this training, because we feel that there is obviously potential and offer here in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And so the idea and a big reason why we're offering this program is because cultural festivals can be a big draw for that market, both in Europe and in the United States. But it's very important that for festivals, and I'll get more into the tourism supply chain a bit later, but in order for festivals to be connected with tour operators, for example, they have to be stable, like they have to be happening multiple times over years, and there has to be a level of quality and experience that the tour operator feels comfortable committing to putting that festival on their guides. So I'll give you one example, is in Armenia, there's an Arani wine festival, which is in a little village that's 2.5 hours drive from the capital. And when we first started the program, the festival was popular. It was by far the most popular festival. It was maybe 10,000 people would go, almost all locals, and then like expats working in Armenia. And as we continued to work with the festival and worked on their branding and their outreach and their concept and also their engagement with the community, what started happening is also other tourism started developing as a result in the region. And so then it made it more attractive for tour operators. So now they're offering, the festival has grown quite a bit, and what they're doing is they're offering packages where you can go to visit the festival, but you also go for a hike, you go visit the wine route in the region, and you stay at local B&Bs. And so now it's a package that the tour operators offer both to locals and also to international visitors when they're coming. But that festival's been going on for a number of years, and it's consistent. They never, except for COVID in 2020, they never missed a festival. And so there's a consistency there and an experience in welcoming people. So that's just one, just to give you an overview too, the project is just getting started, but one of the major goals is in attracting those different kinds of travelers to the country. Cool? So, okay. I want to get into, because we have a lot more to cover for this, marketing channels. And so thinking about how you reach your target markets. So I was taking some notes here, but it sounds like what we're looking at is, if you start from the smaller level, you're looking at the local community itself. So you have the festival taking place in a location, and you want to make sure that the local community is participating in the festival. And then beyond that, you might be attracting people from other cities, towns, and rural areas in the country. Beyond that, you might be looking to regional tourists from the Balkans who are interested in the content of your festival. And then at the final level is the international tourist. From a cultural perspective, you're looking for people who have an interest in those specific types of experiences. I think there's the gastro tourism is very relevant and connected to cultural tourism in general. And there are great connections you can make from agricultural products into that kind of gastro, like making the connection from farm to food and culture, and making a dynamic kind of festival that's presenting agricultural products but becomes a more robust cultural festival. And so I also heard the mention of family and child friendly. And so that's another piece that sounds like it's also important, that kind of intergenerational or multi-generational attraction for people as people are looking for things to do with kids. And so all of those markets have different tactics that you want to use to reach them. And so the next thing we're going to work through is marketing channels. So there's traditional marketing and digital marketing. And with traditional marketing, a lot of times when I'm working with people, they think traditional marketing is like the thing to do. They feel like they need it on a billboard, or they need to see a commercial on a TV, or something like that. Also print materials, articles in magazines or advertisements in magazines, those are all considered traditional marketing. What's difficult about them, they do have a high impact. If you're able, for example, if your festival gets big enough and you can make an ad at the airport or something like that, or work with major hotels to advertise the festival, that can have a lot of impact because you get a lot of eyes seeing it and people are building that awareness. The downside to it is it can be very expensive, and it is hard to measure the impact. So you're not going to know unless you do a visitor survey if someone came because they saw a billboard. In contrast, digital marketing is going to be social media, email, and then through your website, you can look at search engine optimization. As we're not going to get into detail on that, but that's a way that you can kind of understand if you have a website, who is coming and what that looks like, and kind of compare it to the people who are coming to your festival. The good news about digital marketing is it's a lot easier to measure. There are a lot of tools. It's dynamic, so if your approach is not working, you can change it. It's more cost effective, and it can be targeted as well. But it's also temporary, which can be for a festival that's just one event, that's okay. So on traditional marketing, you can do billboards and signage, But again, I'm not sure on the costs here and the practicality of it, but I would imagine it's quite expensive. In most places it is. In contrast, TV and radio can actually be pretty good. We had a lot of luck, for example, with morning shows and radio interviews in Armenia. It's not the case here? No. Why is that?
Social media are better.
Yeah, but is it because people don't watch TV?
Mainly.
Yeah.
TV and radio are for mostly elderly.
Ah, okay, okay.
If you are targeting that kind of.
Okay, so if we need language stuff, people are using the headphones, yeah? So what she was saying is that TV and radio are mostly for the elderly. So if you're targeting that group, then that's important, but younger people are really learning about things through social media. That's really good to know. Okay. You don't agree?
No.
Let's hear.
Opet sve zavisi od događaja od događaja do događaja. Mi smo sada, kad smo spremali konferenciju na temu mentalnog zdravlja, išli masovno na TV gostovanja i radio Stari grad Sarajevo nam je bio i medijski pokrovitelj i to nam je bilo 80% posjećenosti nam je bilo vis-a-vis televizije i radija. Tako da vam sve zavisi od događaja do događaja. Činjenica da su društvene mreže danas zastupljene u 90% tih reklama, ali isto tako ne bih se složila da je sve u svakom festivalu i u svakom događaju identično.
Može samo jedno pitanje. Od tih ljudi koji su došli, koliko je bilo mladih, koliko starijih? Mislim, koliko je efekat stvarno televizija imala na mladi i da li je stvarno... Nije to vezano sad za tematiku, mislite da je tematika... Pošto znam iz našeg iskustva, evo koliko 20 godina muzej radi po tradicionalnim marketinškim metodama, rezultati su jadni. Mi smo se pokrenuli Facebooku, Instagramu, YouTubeu, rezultati su skočili za 200%.
Opet je muzej nešto specifično i drugačije od ovoga što mi radimo. Znači ja sam neka vrsta privatnika, koja u sopstvenom aranžmanu organizuje događaje, a vi ste opet muzej koji radi kako radi. Tako da, ali dobro, vi ste opet, čije je vlasništvo to? Državno, pa da. Sve okej, ali opet ne možete pored neki događaj vaš i neki koji radimo mi kao lupam medijske, marketinške kuće.
If I can, I think that there's a difference, and what I want to go back to is it does depend on the audience that you're trying to reach.
Pa jeste. Mislim, nama je populacija.
Can I have your attention? You can debate during the coffee break. No, it's good. It's good. I generally think, okay, so any free advertising I actually think is a good thing, right? So if a morning show, for example, or local TV is inviting you, like if you have that connection, don't ever turn it down because you never know. I mean, maybe it is like all the grandmas around the country watching it, but then maybe they're telling their grandkids and their kids like that they should go. And maybe they're going to go too, Like, as I was mentioning, festivals, when they're family events, it's really engaging and it's really successful. So I wouldn't ignore it. The difference, I would say, is if you're considering TV, and again, sometimes this is different for private firms if you have other resources, but if you're looking at like really strapped resources, I would prioritize opportunities where you are able to get content in traditional media without paying for it. So you don't want to necessarily pay for a TV advertisement if you're just getting started, but if you can get a spot to talk about your event on a morning show, I would never turn that down. I would seek out those opportunities. Same thing with a radio or anything else, right? Traditional. And with print magazines too, I would say that one of the exceptions on print, and again, I'm just new to the country, so maybe people can also share, but there are some print publications, for example, in Armenia, that are very popular with young people. And so for the festivals that we had there, we got these local publications to cover the festivals, and it's like a free magazine that's handed out in all the cafes and stuff like that. And they did like really cool graphic design. Okay, so maybe someone should start something like that here in Sarajevo, because young people really like those publications. But if there's not that type of thing, again, that's sponsored content kind of stuff because they're looking for those types of things. Okay, any questions on that? Yeah. Okay, so I will say another piece of traditional marketing that is essential are your print materials. And we'll get into how you use those, whether that's a leaflet, a postcard, a brochure, a poster. Those can be, that kind of grassroots outreach can be highly effective, depending on who you're trying to reach, but with the general public. That kind of advertising can be really beneficial and not that costly also. It's just the design and printing of the materials and then working with volunteers. I think you were saying actually yesterday that you have a lot of volunteers that distribute leaflets to cafes and things. We'll get into that in a little bit. Okay, so that's traditional marketing. Okay, getting into digital marketing, we'll go a little bit into each topic, but honestly, there are other trainings that are like days long on the details. So we're not gonna coach on Facebook pages and stuff like that. I'm just gonna give you a broad overview. So email marketing, it's super affordable. It's easy to measure the impact because you can see who's opening the emails, and you can have very targeted messaging and encourage ongoing engagement. One of the things that's extremely important with marketing for your festival is even though the festival is one time in a year, if you're going to use digital marketing, you do have to focus on building your audience throughout the rest of the year. It's all about content and consistency. And so figuring out ways that you can create content all year long, and then you gradually start to really build up as you're leading to the festival. Email can be a way to do that. You can share information about your participants. If you're an NGO, connecting to your audiences in that way. Email marketing really helps you to stay in touch with your audience. Now, a key with email, though, is you don't want it to be super frequent because it's very easy for people to unsubscribe. One of the challenges is getting those contacts in the first place and building those contact lists. And so one of the things that we do at the festival is when we're doing our visitor surveys and at our info booths, we have places where people can leave their email information for learning more about our programs and events. And so we actively seek to collect that information at our events so that we can share information with people in the future using email. Okay, so for social media, this is really like, as you mentioned, social media, the difficulty with it is that you can get lost because there's a lot happening, but you can be super targeted. So you do have a lot of potential for extensive and engaged reach and the ability to build community and reach targeted audiences, specifically with ages and all of the tools that you have there. You can also track your success because you're gonna see what your engagement looks like, how many followers, all of those things. You'll be able to raise awareness. The most common ones are Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, somewhat, and I'll get into how that's useful, and TikTok. I don't know is TikTok popular here? Yeah? Yeah. I can't even go there. If I watch TikTok, then 5 hours later, I've seen all of these funny videos, and I don't know what happened to my life. But I know that especially for younger audiences, TikTok is very popular. Again, this is a great place to engage volunteers. During the festival especially, like really kind of capturing content and sharing it with your audience. So on Facebook, this is like pretty old school, but Facebook is still very solid for promoting events. So you're gonna wanna create a business page, and this creates the opportunity for you to have paid advertising and tabs where you can have photos and reviews and information about the event, as well as monitoring tools and statistics. So that's very important when you're setting something up to make sure it's that type of page. You can also, you make sure you add a username so that you can direct people, like facebook.com/Chestnut Festival, you know, so it's very easy for people to find. And you have to pay close attention to the design of the page because it does matter. The cover, the logo, having a call to action button, everything that's there, it needs to all be part of a cohesive look. And we'll get into branding, but when you're working with a graphic designer, you can get a package for social media so that it has a look and feel not only for your print materials, but also for Facebook. And of course, importantly, it should provide information about your organization with contacts, a story, multiple languages depending on the audience that you're trying to reach, a link to your website if you have one, an email contact. And I will tell you with Facebook, as with, we'll get into this with fundraising, but communication matters. You have to be responsive. So if you're going to set this up, you have to be prepared to respond to people's questions and be active and build trust with your audience. For Instagram, I like the features of Instagram. Obviously now it's owned by Facebook, but you can link the two, so it's very easy to produce content on Instagram and then have it automatically populate onto your Facebook page. So it's nice to use these two together. But now with the way stories are being used, the dynamic is changing. Again, it's much more temporal and they're disappearing and it's like changing every day. Do you have a question?
No, the Instagram reel.
Yes.
Reel, that's the most popular one.
In Bosnia, the reel, yeah?
The pictures, now the
Yeah. The reel.
on the video.
But isn't the reel the one that disappears?
No,
It stays.
That's the today's story.
That's the story, right?
It stays and they moved from 15 seconds to 1 minute.
Okay. Okay. So what he was just saying for translation is that the most popular Instagram tool now is the reel. The stories disappear. I don't encourage using the stories. I hate those. It's like Snapchat. But the reel will stay. And you said it's extended to a minute?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, for that content, because people really like that content. Yeah, so creating that kind of content with the videos, especially, because photos, again, like you said, I mean, they're just not, video is always going to get you more views, especially for a festival, because you want to capture moments. So for Instagram and for Facebook, it's something that you really need to think about when you're actually learning some lessons from our social media team here for the project. You've seen them coming around every day and they're taking little videos and they're doing photos of everything so that they can share it on Facebook. You can also have volunteers at your festival going around and doing short videos and working on putting that on social media. But think about it when your festival is taking place, that the content you're capturing isn't just for you to put on social media during the festival. You're collecting content that you're going to use for advertising the next festival for the whole year. So no amount is too much. Like it's really a worthwhile investment if you can make it. And I would say if you have a little extra budget, having a professional videographer, I showed you the My Armenia reel yesterday. It wasn't too expensive. They had drones and regular cameras and they did that short reel, and having short reels like that can be very impactful. You know, having some music to go along with it and being able to use that and share it repeatedly, put it on your website, etc. So again, with digital marketing, you know, we talked about traditional, it's one directional. You're just putting messaging out there into the world and you're not exactly sure where it's going. With digital media, you're creating community, which is super important for festivals, for people to feel like they're a part of it. So you want to make sure that the content you're posting is engaging. You're encouraging participation and engagement with others. So the more you can tag people and places, the more reach it's going to get on your social media, using hashtags as well, making sure you're always sending and replying messages, like that constant communication. And then it is worthwhile to promote your page and your posts. So it's not a huge amount of money, but setting aside some resources in your budget to boost, and then look at that target market. So if you want to attract youth to come to your festival, thinking about the messaging that you want to convey to them, and then creating a post specifically and boosting it for that audience. And make a schedule. Posting regularly is very important. So in order to do that, it's nice to have things prepared. Because again, if it's not during your festival and it's in the year in between when you're not having a festival, you want to be able to continue to publish content so people don't forget about your event and that they get more excited as it comes. So you want to create also, in addition to having a page, creating a Facebook event as well, so people can say that they're interested or going. And then you can boost the event to get even more engagement for the event itself. So the page is going to be the background. I don't have experience with Google Ads. I know, I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know if anyone on the team back there works on marketing. Do you have experience with Google Ads at all?
Google Ads.
Can you please repeat the last part of the question?
We were talking about boosting, I've been talking about Facebook and digital marketing.
Okay.
And using Facebook ads and like boosting your posts and things like that. And we had a question about Google Ads and if Google Ads are effective. I've never used Google Ads.
For the festivals?
Yeah.
Not really.
No, right? It's more for products and services.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For things that people will actually Google.
Yeah.
Like product or whatever, service. But festival, not so. Your goal with festival is to show it to people, to put it in front of them to see them.
Yeah.
So if they're not looking for it, they might not find it.
Yeah. Okay. Another. Yeah, a lot of people skip, the Google Ads, he's saying he skips the Google Ads when he sees them. Yeah, I mean, again, Google Ads are much more, even on Instagram, honestly, with their marketing, it's so much more product oriented. It's to get you to purchase things. So with the festival, it's not, yes, there may be ticket prices involved, but it's not the same kind of, it's a bit of a different model. So I don't think it's worth, that's a good point, Harun, thank you. Okay. Okay, so back on the event page, you have to make sure that you have all the event details. And I can't emphasize this enough. Don't change the date of your festival. Set it in advance and keep it. I can tell you that in the tourism industry especially, there's nothing that erodes trust more than a festival organizer who keeps changing the date of their festival. If you don't have a consistent date, they're not going to work with you. So it's very important that at least, like, when I will say this, if you can work together to have a shared calendar for festivals, it makes a huge difference, because then you can give that to tour operators and to anyone who's doing marketing for the country, because people want to know when they're visiting what's going on. So if there's a shared event and festival calendar that can be made, but that takes a lot of coordination. And to be honest, in Armenia, when we met with festival organizers, they ended up forming an association nationwide simply for the purpose of coordinating and scheduling their festivals. They ended up, we supported through the project there a website and documentation of the festivals and a little bit of leadership, but their membership fees and everything are truly just related to having a Facebook page, a schedule, and a website that they update, and they print and publish a calendar every year. And that's like the sole purpose of the association, because it's super important. Because if you don't have a schedule of the events, then you have conflicting times. It's very hard for a visitor to understand. You want that available to people. So, asking community members to share your events. The other piece of this that I want to encourage is, a lot of times, I will tell you, I've been training festival organizers and artisans and nonprofits for many, many years, and the biggest benefit to these trainings is not anything that I'm telling you, it's the relationships that you make with each other. So make sure, you know, it makes me very happy to see all of you meeting and talking. It's important for your collaboration. You can help each other. You should promote each other, because really, festivals aren't just about one event. You're creating a festive place, and you're doing that together. And you're much more powerful as a whole in creating that perception. But in order for that to happen, you have to work together. And so building those relationships and asking others to promote your festival, or collaborating in some way, maybe having participants that are going to both festivals, is really important. So those are just for your notes. We're not going to share on that. I'm going to move on to the next topic, which is engaging with the tourism supply chain. So there are two kind of scenarios for tourism supply. And our team at Turizam also has a lot more detailed information on how this works here, but I'm just going to give you a general overview. This is kind of like a global approach. But the first scenario is called FIT, F-I-T. It's a fully independent traveler. And a lot of travel is going more in this direction. This is how I like to travel. I would never book a tour. I would go to a country and I would look on Airbnb for a place to stay and for their experiences. I might go to TripAdvisor or Expedia or something like that. Look at blogs. You know, if you think about like different demographics of people, again, mass tourism is much more about the tour operators, and they're not going to be as interested in the kind of like experiential cultural tourism that we're talking about with festivals. And so there's different ways to reach each of them. So the first is basically the traveler. The FIT is like the traveler going directly to the tourism product. So that's me coming here and deciding that I want to go to, oh my goodness, what's that beautiful waterfall that's near Mostar? I saw it on my screensaver for my computer at home when I found out I was coming here, and I was like, how am I going to go there? That is so gorgeous. And so I started looking up and reading blogs and figuring out like how you go there. Like I would never contact a local tour operator, but I might find a guide online or something like that. So that's like increasingly people are traveling that way, especially the folks that are going to be interested in the types of festivals and events that you're doing. So the second scenario, again, which has been around forever, and this is like the main tourism supply chain. When you think about this, it has a lot of people in it. So the traveler reaches out to a travel agent who works with an outbound tour operator. So if I'm here, you might travel this way sometimes, right? Like, let's say I'm here in Sarajevo, I want to go on a holiday. And so I'm going to contact a travel agent. That travel agent has connections with different countries where you might be going. So let's say you're going to go to the beach in Egypt or something like that. And so there's going to be an outbound tour operator here that's then going to connect you with an inbound tour operator in Egypt to plan your vacation. And then you're going to get there, you're going to check in at your resort, and then you're going to have a program of things that you do. So there are tour operators here, and they put together packages. And so what you might have, and I'm sure this is the case, is that you have, let's say, outbound tour operators in the United States or Europe who are putting together packages here in Bosnia and Herzegovina. They're working with local tour operators to understand what experiences should be a part of that package. So for your festival, it's important for those local tour operators to know about your festival. They're the ones you want to make sure you get that information to. So to give you a practical example, Smithsonian actually has a travel company. It's called Smithsonian Journeys. And it's very high-end, very expensive tourism. It's like National Geographic. It's mostly old rich people on very like bucket list journeys. But we don't actually plan those trips ourselves. We work with a tour operator that's in the United States that's focused globally, and then they have relationships with inbound tour operators in every country where we travel. And so in Armenia, when we designed our program there, in order to get our experiences that we designed in Armenia onto the Smithsonian Journeys itinerary, we had to work with the local tour operator that works with our international tour operator. So it's a process. It's very much like if you're selling something wholesale, you know, like you've got and then each time there's like people get paid in the process, right? So there's that kind of concept. For festivals, your most important piece in this is going to be the tour operator here. That's who you want to know about it. When you get to become a much bigger festival, like some of these, I don't know if maybe Sarajevo Film Festival might be at that level because it's so big, where then you're starting to work on international, where they might be like offering tours, right, at that international level because of that awareness. But this is kind of a helpful guide to like navigate. And again, when you're looking here at the traveler and tourism product, this is the space where you can put your festival on platforms so a tourist can find it more easily. I'm not sure if, I actually have to look. I think there was a limitation for events that you couldn't put them on things like TripAdvisor and Expedia, but I'm not sure if that's changed. You can't, right? It's not. Yeah, it has to be something that's offered consistently. Yeah, it has to be offered consistently. Yeah, I thought so. So it's a bit more difficult that way. But you can capture people who are already here. So this is a great, you know, think about like, I'm here now, and well, now I'm going to miss it, but there was a couple here that has the Guitar United Festival. If I were staying through the end of the month, I learn about their festival and I'd go. Or if I'm walking around Sarajevo and I see posters for a festival, then I might go just because I'm here. So you can capture a lot of people that way. But you can, so aside from the tour operators, you can also reach travelers through lodging, through hotels, bed and breakfasts, both local and regional. You can also connect with them through restaurants, through museums, through retail shops, not so much the like Zara or shopping mall kind of places. But I saw, for example, there was the Art and Design School has a shop where they have a poster for people to go and buy souvenirs that are like art and design. If it's places where tourists, if you want to attract tourists where they might go, then that might be a place where you can go and advertise for the festival as well. And then you can also connect with tourism experiences. So if you are planning your festival in a community where there are also tourism products, then you can work closely with them so that people come to the festival and then maybe go on the experience. I know there's a lot of hiking in Bosnia, so that's a very good opportunity for people to kind of pair going to a festival and also having an outdoor experience. And our team is going to be working on a lot of this kind of packaging and things like that in the future, so they'll be able to support in some ways with making those kinds of connections. So when you're thinking about these types of partners, what makes them a good partner? You have to think about what they would gain from the experience and how you work with them. So what would they get out of promoting your product and promoting your festival? And then you have to think about how you're going to educate them about it and how you reach out to them and how you stay in touch with them. So I'm going to give you an example from our friend Amjad, who's not here today. I decided to use his name as a... So I'm putting on a folk festival here. And Amjad just opened a bed and breakfast in the same community, like really close to where I'm doing the Folklife Festival. So here's an opportunity because my folk festival is kind of far. It takes some time to get there. People are obviously going to be like having some, let's say there's some wine involved. So you want them to be able to spend the night, right? You don't want them driving back after drinking a whole bunch of wine. So I can reach out to Amjad's place because many of the tourists that are staying at Amjad's B&B, it's a beautiful location, but they're looking for something to do. So as a festival organizer, I can contact Amjad and invite him to visit the festival because it's important for him to know that it's there. So if you're not doing that already, inviting people who have lodging to come and experience the festival is a really important thing to do. You have a question? Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah,
Znači, volontirala sam godinama na tom festivalu i radila sam i na recepciji u jednom hotelu paralelno. I pošto sam radila na tom volontirala na festivalu, probavala sam na svom radnom mjestu da promovišem to. I jednostavno gosti nisu doživljavali to. Iako sam znala cijelu pozadinu i godinama sam tu na festivalu i probavala da jednostavno promovišem, goste ne zanima. On svako ok, ništa. Jednostavno, jako teško, barem iz mog primjera je bilo povezati taj accommodation i festival.
Yeah. It's not always going to work, and the market of the people might not be the market for the cultural festival. There are a lot of people who are going to go and stay at a hotel somewhere who aren't interested in cultural festivals. So it's not always going to work. And part of that is you want to find the right partners who are attracting the types of tourists that actually want to come to your festival. So again, this goes back to that profile of the people that you're trying to bring to the festival and the people you want to connect with. And that means that for hotels and accommodation, again, I'm a little limited because I haven't traveled around the country yet, so I'm going to draw on the experiences I have in Armenia. There are several bed and breakfasts in Vajacor, which is this wine area, that the bed and breakfasts are very focused on wine. They're attracting people who are coming to the region specifically because they want to see the harvest or they want to do wine tasting. And so for the Arani Wine Festival, there are also other accommodations. There are like little like kind of business hotels or places where people go because it's on the road and they're just like staying there to visit family or friends. You don't bother with those hotels because that's not where people are staying. But if you go to the boutique hotels and the bed and breakfasts that are also targeted on that kind of experience, then you're going to have a lot more luck. And it's better to focus your efforts. So, I mean, to give you an example, maybe Amjad's B&B is also a place that's very focused on incorporating craft into the place. Maybe it's a renovated old building, a historic building or something like that. Or maybe it's part of a farm as part of like an agritourism B&B. The people who stay there are going to be more interested in going to my folk festival if they chose to stay at his place. Does that make sense? So you have to be, time is a limited resource. So do your research on the accommodation to understand what type of travelers stay there. And you can also go and talk to the hotel management and understand that. Because again, it's not going to be for everyone. It's not like a blanket approach. You should be specific. So in this case, assuming like Amjad has this place where he's working, he's having local artisans make products that decorate his B&B, and he's serving like, specific like local food and gastronomy, then he might be more interested in my folk festival. And so, I know that people coming to my festival would enjoy it a lot more if they could make a weekend of it. So I could sit down with Amjad and talk to him about his B&B being an anchor for my festival. So in terms of proposing the partnership, it's all about relationships. You want to go and take materials about it. Again, if you have video to show, Facebook to share, something that shows that it's dynamic if he's not experienced with it, then that's going to make it so much more convincing. And again, if you're professional, you've got your package of information that you're taking. You're going to, here's the brochure, you're communicating the impact, you're able to do the elevator pitch. Why would your guests want to come stay and visit my festival? And so if he's interested, then you can work together to actually create a package that can then be provided to tour operators. Because now it's not just a festival, but now there's a bed and breakfast. And a tour operator might be able to also add in some other experiences, make it a 2 or 3 night stay, and people pay a price for that. So in terms of marketing tactics, what you need for this is I would need to give Amjad a detailed description of the festival and ticket prices so that he can explain it to his clients. I'd give him a stack of brochures to keep in the bed and breakfast somewhere like on the counter so people can see. I'd give him a poster that he can hang up on the wall. And I'd give him photos that he could put on his website and on his Facebook page and Instagram. And then he would give me information about the B&B that I could include on the festival website, Facebook, and Instagram pages. So again, this is a space where you can do a little bit of work on content and working together. So if you have on your Facebook page, you have your event, you're advertising your event, you're showing how fun it is, you should also be making an effort to let people know where they can stay and let people know what else they can do while they're there. If you do that, you're creating an opportunity for a richer experience, you're helping the broader community and the ripple effect of people coming and staying in the region, and then also getting more people to come to your festival. And it's also content, because you're giving people a little bit more of a view of what else there is to do, aside from attending the festival. Does that all make sense to everybody? Does it seem doable? Mostly? Yeah. You don't need to have a whole lot of partners. So you can start with 1 or 2 and start to have the conversation. Yes.
Hvala. Jedna od vrlo važnijih stvari vezano za partnerstvo je zaista da na neki način dijelite iste vrijednosti. Bilo koja od institucija, od tih, hajmo reći, da li je to institucija gdje ste iznajmili prostor ili hotel ili tako dalje, da na neki način dijelite iste vrijednosti. Mi imamo sjajnu suradnju zaista sa lokalnim hoteljerima i tako dalje, ali zato je trebalo jako puno vremena. Imali smo prilika da nam se ponudi zaista sjajna cijena, dobar paket, ono što se kaže, sve dobar doručak i tako dalje, ali naše učesnice dođu i recimo osoblje na recepciji daje negativne seksualne komentare u odnosu kako neko izgleda, kako se ponaša i tako dalje. Čak smo imali situacija da u slučaju nasilja vlasnici hotela nisu htjeli da reaguju, kao nemojte čak zvati ni policiju, jer kao mi ne bismo htjeli da budemo povezani sa tim. Uz dužno poštovanje, ako je taj hotel zaista na sjajnom mjestu i tako dalje, mi smo apsolutno prekinuli suradnju sa njima. I to se odnosi i na druge stvari. Recimo, ja sam samostalna roditeljka djeteta sa invaliditetom. I ako bih otišla na neki festival, bilo gdje, i recimo ja obožavam Hercegovinu i tako dalje, ja imam zaista problem kada mi festivali nude mjesta na kojima se ja ne osjećam sigurno. Znači, nemam parking, recimo, obezbijeđen, ženski WC je nepostojeći ili se čuvaju metle u njima, svi me nekako gledaju kao što si ti došla, što, jer se podrazumijeva da će samo nekakva heteronormativna grupa da dođe posjetiti taj festival, a možda ja zapravo imam bruku para koju hoću da potrošim u lokalnim vinarijama i hoću da kupim vina za narednih 5 godina, podijelim svojim gostima i tako dalje. Znači, mislim da se ta partnerstva ne smiju olako shvatati. Jeste sjajno da ja dobijem ponudu za smještaj 30 maraka sa plaćenim onim svim taksama, doručak i tako dalje, ali da li je zaista to vrijedno mog kao učesnice na festivalu, posjetiteljci ili tako dalje, nezadovoljstva, straha, stresa ili tako dalje. Tako da mislim da jako puno pažnje treba biti posvećeno tome.
I'm so glad you brought that up. Yesterday we talked also about accessibility at festivals, and so there's some materials from the training, the workshop yesterday covering that topic of creating an inclusive atmosphere at the festival so that people feel that there's a space for them to safely participate. And we talked a lot about parking, about access, washrooms, having all the facilities that you need. But I think your point also about partnerships is very true. And I think that the way to be really successful in this is you all share something because you all came here for an interest in culture-themed festivals. And when we talked yesterday, we talked about mission, vision, values, concepts. And all of that is you share a desire to promote and to sustain cultural heritage. And we talked about the ways of doing that and the type of representation that's necessary for it. And so I think what you're talking about is really important because it's you, as festival organizers, you play a role in creating an ecosystem that can make change in a community. And so as a festival organizer, really working to find people that share your values, you have to know what your values are first. So that's why that piece that's really important. That's why I shared with you our organizational values, because I wanted you to understand where I come from. It is about equity, it's about cultural democracy, it's about, really creating an equal playing field for people to be able to share and celebrate the freedom of cultural expression. So it's important for you as an organizer to establish your values, and then it can be very challenging, but seeking out partners that share those values is essential. And sometimes it's hard, but you can find them. And so seeking out those lodging, accommodations, experiences. Is it time for coffee? Yep. Okay. Can I have 3 minutes? We're going to go through marketing materials, and then I'll let you have your coffee. So thank you for that comment. I think it's really important. Okay. Okay, so marketing materials. I'm just going to go through this a little quickly so we can get to coffee. One of the most important things that you can do to professionalize your festival is make sure that you have a cohesive brand for the festival, something consistent that you can use year over year. So, and use in your marketing materials. So the branding the festival isn't just about the logo or design. It should communicate the festival concept that we talked about yesterday. Again, coming back to that concept, it's the most important work you can do is really get a solid idea of what that concept is. Branding should define your identity and also make a promise to the visitor and to your participants about what it is that this festival is hoping or event is hoping to accomplish. It should also tell them what to expect when they come and give them a feeling for it. It should also differentiate yourself from other festivals and events and other experiences. And so there are ways to do that. You have to think about what's distinct. There are some festivals in here that are similar, folk, traditional. You have to look at, like, if you have a place-based festival that you're trying to create, what is it about that specific place that's really special, and communicating that to your audience through your branding and your materials. It should also embody your values and the key attributes of the festival and present a voice that reflects the festival. And you're going to take all of this and use it to create marketing materials. So this is something I want you to just kind of think about when we're having coffee. We don't have to go through the exercise right now. But think about your current brand if you have one. Do you have a logo? What does the logo mean? Why did you create that logo? What does it represent? Is it something that can easily be understood by other people? How is it used? Do you have a color palette and a font typography that you use for consistency? And do you have promotional materials? If so, what are they, and are they branded? And so if you have time, what I'd like you to do when you have coffee is chat with each other a little bit about that. And if you have a logo, show, like if it's on your Facebook or website or anything, like share that with others to present it and discuss and get feedback. So in terms of a toolkit, my recommendation to you is this. Working with a designer is some of the best investment you can make because it really professionalizes what you're doing. And so consulting with a designer to put together a package that you can use for your materials, you should have a visual identity. I strongly recommend investing in some photography. A video reel I mentioned, doing videos can be extremely useful for social media and marketing. A social media identity I mentioned as well, linking the brand so that when you look at the Facebook page, it has a cohesive look and feel that communicates the festival. Print materials, a brochure or a flyer or a postcard, something that that's small that you can hand out to people about the festival, and a business card. That's going to be very important for you when you're going and having meetings trying to raise money for the festival as well. And then signage, because we talked about signs yesterday. You want that brand identity to flow and feel have a place throughout the festival. So I'm going to show you one thing before we go. So I showed you the video for My Handmade Armenia yesterday, and this is the website for the event. So it kind of has this it's a very simple website, very cost effective. It's a template, but it has the My Handmade Armenia logo. It has the dates of the festival, the times of the festival, very clear and upfront. That should be as soon as you get to the website. It has a section about the festival, which gets into the details. We took professional photography of all of our participants so that it has a nice look and feel. So you can see each of the people that are participating in the festival. We're offering workshops. So we have the schedule here of events, very easy to see. There's no need for advanced ticketing because these events are all free, so people come and get a ticket when they come to the festival. But it has the schedule and the time, so if you're planning with your family, you can know what it is that you want to do. And then it has the video I showed you yesterday. And then it goes a little bit deeper here, having a description of each of the crafts that are there. Carpets, embroidery, stone carving, wood carving, pottery, jewelry. And it's bilingual, blacksmithing, textiles, for people that want to go deeper, and then it has a link to the social media. Very practical tips here. Kids, what does it say? All workshops are kid-friendly. Kids can also enjoy artisan demonstrations, so it's letting people know if they want to bring their kids. This is a place not just for shopping, but for family activities. It has a Google location, which is very important for people to know how to get it. And cash, because the artisans don't accept credit cards. So making sure people know that if they want to buy things, that they need to bring cash with them. So the very practical information about the site. So that's just giving you an example of how all the things we're talking about with branding and information and all of that can be in one place. And this is connected to the Instagram, connected to the Facebook about the event as well.